Good morning, Georgia.
Good morning.
All right, that's pretty close, Francie. It's a very good picture. Gabriel was at the pearly gates, and he had just gotten back from vacation, and so there's a long line waiting to get in heaven, and men and women. And so he said, "Okay, I want 3 lines. I want all the women on one line. I want 2 lines of men. I want 1 line of the men that were the head of their household, and I want 1 line of men that were subservient to their wife." And so all the lines formed, and after they were formed, he said, "Women, you can go on in there and meet Mary." And so they went in to the pearly gates, and he went up to the observed both of the men's line, and saw this 1 line that was subservient to their wife, huge line, long line. And on the line that was the man that was head of the household, there was only 1 person over there. And so he goes to the long line, he says, "I can't believe you guys. You were supposed to be the head of your household, and you didn't do what the Bible says to do. What's your problem?" And so he got on to him for a while, and then he goes over, "This one man here was the head of his household. So, excuse me, sir, but what did you do? How come you were such a good following servant and were the head of the household? How come you put yourself in this line?" And he said, "Because my wife told me to stand here." Okay. King tide. How many knows what a king tide is? I feel 1 person. Were you raised on the beach or something?
Yeah, I read the newsletter.
Oh yeah, I heard about it actually.
I read it.
I didn't even know I had it on the
No, I
newsletter.
knew about it, but I had forgotten about it.
Okay, anyway, I'll tell you what it is here in a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know a lot of people down in the South say this, and usually doesn't say this, but I want you to understand what it really means. And so that we are kings and queens, if you will, just to separate the sexes, which we don't need to do in a spiritual text. But we are kings and queens, and we are paupers and indigents, whatever we decide in our own time. So whatever you decide you're going to be, any one of these 4, I mean the paupers and indigents can be either king or queens, and all that means is you're poor, or you're out on your luck, out of luck. But you can be whatever you want to be. And I think that nobody in here right now would choose the latter 2 over the first 2 if they were just thinking about it. But sometimes we choose the latter 2 for some reason. And whatever we do right now, though, depends on what our legacy is. Because we're making our legacy right now. Whether we know it or not, whether they are loved ones or not, our actions speak loudly to those around us. Whether it's at church or whether it's at our home, wherever it is, whatever we're doing, we're building a legacy. And I've always, actually, my bank in Kansas was the name of the bank, Legacy, and I see that they have a legacy around here. I don't think I know of any legacy bank that's really big. They're all usually local banks, which
Yeah, that.
Have you seen a big one? I don't know.
No, there's one in Loganville. Gonna be one in
Yeah.
Monroe, I think, isn't it, or something? But
We're stuck.
Mom got.
Oh, you're in there? You go?
Yeah,
That's
Mom.
funny.
Well, and I guess now we are stockholders, but it hadn't made any money. So
Well, that's all right. That's all right. Well, so anyway, so what we're doing right now is building a legacy that we leave. And of course, we can look at that and say, when most people think of a legacy, they think of what they're going to leave their kids, right? And there's more to that though than just that. It's what we're leaving as far as humanity goes too. And so that's just as important, if not more, than what we're leaving to our children. But Charles Fillmore had an idea about legacy, even though he didn't use that word. He was talking about time. And a legacy, all that is time. I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about our time here, what we're doing during that time to leave for someone else or to be an example for someone else. And that's the most important part right there, is being the example for someone else. You know, I have to tell you this story. I didn't even think about telling you this, but I was usually on the boys. I'm not really shocked about anything they do, but the other day they asked me a question out of the blue, and I don't know, still don't know where it came from. And they said, "Was Mom your first marriage?" And I thought, wow, I guess that's an intelligent question, but I just never thought in the world, usually when we're, at least for me, and I think it's, this, this is funny too, I guess. When you think of your legacy and you think of your childhood, I think most of us, at least I think that most of us look at it as we had the same childhood as other people. But that's not true, really. It's not true, because at their age right now, I would have never ever thought of a question like that. I just would have never crossed my mind. And so, but there's so many different things that come into play with life nowadays that aren't the same as what we grew up with. And they're, no matter, even if you grow up in the same era and you grow up doing the same things, you have your own perspective on it. And that isn't the same as somebody else's. Even though it's the same event, it's not the same as everybody else's. So what you decide to make of something is really up to you, right? And that's how we're leaving our legacy, is we're leaving our legacy on how we not only act in things, but how we react or respond to different things. And so when we think about what we're doing and what kind of legacy we're leaving, we need to think about how we react and respond to things, and how we are acting when we're not reacting and responding, but also what we're pulling that from. Are we pulling it from our spiritual understanding? Are we pulling it from our mortal understanding? Which are two different things, usually. Not all the time, but usually they are. I mean, we can go around right now and say, which a lot of us do, but they used to say it a long time ago too, is, all the news, all they do is give you the bad news. They don't give you the good news, which may or may not be true. It depends a little bit on your perspective. Could be true all the way, could be not true all the way. But it depends a little bit on your perspective, but it also depends on what us as humanity is wanting from the news, right? Because we look at a lot of things and get what we want from it. But it's all up to us, and Fillmore talks about legacy as time. And time being something that is, Reverend Francie used to have this, she used to, she still does actually, but anyway, she used to overload herself on things to do. And so she would sometimes get behind on something as far as the clock goes. And so she started learning to say, time is ever expansive. So she wouldn't, she would understand that she has time to do everything that she wants to do, which she does. And she doesn't need to get overloaded. But that's neither here nor there. But let's hear what Fillmore says. Let's hear what
Throw
Fillmore
me under
says.
the bus.
Time is the measure that man gives to passing events. The only power in time is what man imparts to it. So Reverend Francie's right. Time is expansive. It doesn't go by a clock necessarily. When man gets into the understanding of the absolute, that means the spiritual, he takes his freedom from all bondage of time and declares that time shall no more enter into the substance of his mind or body or affairs. So, I'm kind of a stickler for that because, as far as the clock, I used to be more than now. Because, owning a business, we opened at a certain time, we closed at a certain time. The closing really wasn't a problem, but the opening was sometimes, People wouldn't show up on time. I had been scheduled to be there to open or something. They wouldn't show up on time. Yeah, that hurt me a little bit. But I've noticed down here that, and it may be just everywhere now, but as far as changing of human consciousness, awareness or whatever, but people aren't as tight on time down here, it seems like. I mean, you're talking earlier about whether church is going all day or not. A lot of people in the South kind of expected an all-day church. In Unity, we're not usually used to that. Now, I sometimes get on a rant, I guess you could say, and go overtime as far as the clock goes, right? And I know you love that when I do that, but, I try to get it to where it is a time frame, so I don't do that. So I'm going to get past this time explanation real quick, so I don't do that today, all right? Anyway, I hope you can see where time can get onto us as far as having to do something in a certain amount of time. Follow me? I know you do. But Fillmore says you don't need to let that take control of your life. And really, when we talk about our legacy, if all of us would sit down and think, and use legacy as most people use it, as far as what you're leaving, wanting to impart on the world or on your children or whatever, if we all sat down and thought about that, I bet you we would readjust our time as far as the clock of what we do in life. Think about that for a minute. If we want to leave a certain thing in our life after we're gone, physically, but we look at our life and we're not spending time on that, probably not going to leave that, are we?
You know what Mom's legacy left? She was picking me up from church one day, and I said, "You're late." She said, "No, I'm not. I'm supposed to be here when I get here."
Yeah, I remember her saying that at different times. Yeah, that's right. You know, that's one thing about when you're flying somebody somewhere. I don't know if you ever use that joke, Jan, but we'd say, "Well, they're not leaving without us if you're the pilot."
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, all right. So we have to think about those things. Centering our mind on God allows us to own time instead of time owning us, though. So if we make that list, if we sit down and think of what we want to leave as a legacy, and we have a list, and you know, it can change over time, there's no doubt. I mean, you know, one of the things, when I was in business, one of the things that I worked very hard physically for was my legacy. I was wanting to leave my printing business to my children. But here's the thing. My children didn't give a hoot about that printing business. They didn't want that stupid thing.
Wasn't stupid.
Well, it wasn't stupid. It was very good to us. But, you know, when we're talking about a legacy, we're talking about leaving something. And we have to consider other people too, don't we? This is not what we are doing or what we want. I know a lot of people that, and you know, I've told this story before, a lot of people that win the lottery, they're hoping to win the lottery. But it's a very high percentage, now I forget what the percentage is, a very high percentage of the people that win sizable amounts in the lottery end up being broke not too long after. And it isn't because they won the lottery, it's why? It's because they didn't have the wherewithal on a plan, on an idea of what their life is going to be like, to think it through instead of going out and, oh, I want this, I want that. You know, I'm well versed in football, you know, and say a prayer for Tua Tagovailoa. He's going to go back out on the football field today. I know you don't know about him probably, but look him up when you go home, because he's going to go back out and play today. And so, but a lot of football players in the NFL make a ton, well, all of them actually do, make a ton of money. Even if you're, you know, on the practice squad, you make a lot of money, okay? And a lot of them, for many, 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 many years, would end up broke not too long after their career was over. Probably 20 years ago, the NFL did something smart. They started requiring, believe it or not, requiring players, even these multi-million-dollar people, to go through a course about money and how to keep care of your money. I mean, to me, that's kind of a great legacy that the NFL is leaving on those people that they're helping to not go out and blow your money like that. Because a lot of them did that. I want this fancy car. I've made it in the NFL. Fine. I want this fancy car. I want these fancy jewels around my neck. I want all this fancy, fancy, fancy. And you can't do that. In fact, I'm going to tell on somebody, but he does do a good job, but he makes a lot of money too, but he doesn't make as much as he could. Patrick Mahomes, most people know him. He's the quarterback of the Kansas City Chiefs. Great football player, very talented, has a talented lineage. But anyway, guess what he owns? A tiger. A tiger, a real tiger. He owns a real tiger.
Why?
Now, a real tiger's not cheap, first of all. And you have to take care of it. And he may not have it anymore, but he did buy a tiger not too long
At
ago.
his house?
No, I don't know if he keeps it in his house. It's a tiger. It's a full-grown tiger. And it's not something that you play with. So anyway,
Maybe it stays at the zoo anyhow.
no, it isn't at the zoo. It's his personal tiger. He might have gotten rid of it by now. I don't know. I don't keep track of him that close. But just to think, you know, if you have that much of something and you think that it's always going to continue to be there, you are blinding yourself. You're not thinking the right way. And it's kind of like the people that really, and I'm not getting on the people at home right now, in a way I am. It's kind of like people that don't go to church anymore. They go, well, you know, I've got the right thing in my heart, and I feel right, and I'm a nice person and all that. Yeah, you may be, but what kind of legacy are you leaving? What kind of a legacy are you leaving for those that come back after you? And I'm not saying that I want you to go to some church that's going to make you feel bad about everything you do in life and that you're not coming to church. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that if you're not coming to church, then where are your priorities as far as your spiritual development? And you may be going online every day to a great spiritual place, to Unity Church of Rockdale, and watching classes and all this stuff all the time, and you may be all right. Yet there's also this interaction. We as humans, and we as spiritual beings, need to come together at times. Not only because we're like-minded, but also because we're differently minded. And we learn stuff from each other. And we grow from each other. So it's important. It's important to know what kind of legacy we're leaving. And the spiritual growth of somebody is so extremely important. It's the number one important thing, really, for any sentient being out there. To understand that, you know, because we're the only ones that can. Other animals on earth cannot understand it. As sentient beings means they can see themselves and see where they're going and all this stuff and what it means to the bigger picture. We're leaving out too much stuff if we don't invite people and have them come to church and just let them know that, you know, we're not trying to force them or trying to say ours is better than theirs, even though it is. We are trying to just help them on their own spiritual path. Time doesn't own you unless you let it own you. Okay, this is from Proverbs. And we have a couple of Bible quotes today, actually, that I want to get with you on. And it says this, and this is, take it how you will. Trust in the Lord with all your heart. You've heard this before. And do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. Be not wise in your own eyes. Fear the Lord and turn away from evil. You know, this is a good quote, and I used it today for this service because of the fact that we need to recognize where our thoughts are coming from and what we are doing with them. What is the point of us doing something? It's kind of like Jim and I every once in a while talk about picking stocks in the stock market. Well, if that was an exact science, not only we would get it, but other people would always get it, right? But it's not an exact science. So when we are thinking about something in the stock market or whatever, where are we pulling our knowledge from? Are we believing what our own eyes see, or are we going within and thinking about the situation for ourselves and what we can do to make it better? Now, that's not going to say that you're going to be a great stock picker if you go and pray about it every time before you get it. It would, though, if you do and you only take what guidance gives you. But I don't know. I need to test that, Jim, because I haven't gone to prayer and say, Dear God, tell me what stock to pick. I need to do that, yes, and see if I receive guidance. But I bet you I probably won't. Because as you're going to see here in a minute, God loves all of us all the same, no matter what we choose. That's the great news. That's the gospel. That's the great news. Yet, do you want heaven now or do you want heaven later? That's the question. Do we want to leave a legacy for our children and other people that see us of how to do it now and enjoy life now, knowing that God loves you? Or do you want to leave a legacy of just struggle through this life, son, and then hopefully you'll go to heaven? There's a big difference, and I know that we all know it. But we have to share it too. We have to let other people know that this isn't all there is. You know, there was when we were at the school last Friday, I saw one and I was going to ask him, you know those banners that they had in the hallway there? Did you read any of them?
Yeah, I've seen them.
I saw one that says, fear, yeah, I don't remember. I'm going to have to look at it. I'm going to want to ask him about it though. I don't know. It seemed like they're above it, but I hope not. They weren't hanging that one though. Anyway, because God isn't something you fear. God is something you want to have a relationship with.
Right.
Okay? And if you're afraid of something, what are you going to do? You're going to kind of, ooh, I don't really, I don't want this meeting, you know. How often are you going to pray? Not very often. God is, if you're a fear to God, right? All right. Knowing that God, though, has your back, then we can move forward in righteousness. And that righteousness, I know, is a trigger word for a lot of people that have been grown up with the Bible. But righteousness has been taken hostage through Christianity. It's not what it means. I mean, if you understand Fillmorian teachings, then you understand what righteousness doesn't mean like you maybe have been taught that I'm right, you're wrong. That's not what righteousness means. Righteousness means right thinking. Not right thinking, but right thinking. Going to God to ask the questions that you have in life, to wait for an answer. Because you don't always get an answer right immediate in prayer, unless you're better than I am, I guess, which you could be, and I hope you are. If you are, come talk to me, because I got some answers or some questions I haven't had answered yet. But sometimes we have to be patient and understand that, you know, maybe we're not ready for it. Maybe we're not ready to win the lottery yet, in a spiritual sense. So, but God has your back at all times. The king tide, and that's what the title of this thing is, and I really appreciated getting to know about this, and you know, I heard one person knows what it is, but I was really appreciative because I saw it on a weather, people that do just weather only, that's all they do in their life. And they're telling me about the how on the king tide, what it is when the earth and the moon are in alignment, makes the tide comes in more, okay? But when the earth and the moon are in alignment and they're the closest together they're going to be, that's the king tide. That's going to be the highest tide that you have in the year. But they explained more than that. They explained that the reason that that happens is the earth is always trying to balance itself. And it's so amazing to me. The earth is amazing to me anyway, how we're 3 degrees out of our orbit. We're all dead as far as oxygen breathers. So, I mean, just think about what a beautiful creation that the earth is and how we are here on it. I mean, you can go into a lot of things, you know, how each of our bodies are created individually and how there's a lot of similarities, but there's a lot of uniqueness too. And so when we think about that, we also have to think about, as far as the earth always trying to come back into balance, we have to think about our bodies too. Our bodies are always trying to come back in balance. You know, like that medical thing that I had not too long ago. I feel great now. Physically, I am in perfect condition. The reason is I listen to my body, and a little bit Francie. She kind of made me force that phone call. But I listened to my body enough that even though it was really to a point where I had no choice to listen. You know, I couldn't do anything that I wanted to do if I didn't go to the doctor. So, but doing that allowed me, through the help of them, to go into the similarities that we have in our body and make it work better. And so that would make me be able to resume what I physically want to do. And so we're always looking for that balance. It has to be in balance, or else it's going to be what? Out of balance. And out of balance isn't going to be as good, because we're going to be not able to do what we want to do. So king tide is when essentially the earth is trying to rebalance itself the way it should be. And we're, it sounds kind of weird, but we're being blessed, I think. I don't know if you've been reading them, Francie, or not, but our friends in Unity of the Blue Ridge, she is a good writer. I didn't know she was such a good writer. But she is kind of updating Asheville and around there every day in their recovery, slow recovery. It takes a long time, you know. And it's just to think, in our own mind, just think of how far as this balance idea. Who in the world would have ever thought that you were going to have the worst part of a hurricane be in western North Carolina? Nobody would have thought. I mean, the coast didn't get as bad as that from the Helene. And so when the earth is trying to balance itself, it can do something kind of strange. And so can our bodies. But just think if we were all in balance. I mean, I think, of course you know that I think it would be in the 4th dimension, not this 3rd dimension. But they call it now in western North Carolina what is it? I forgot the name now. They call it.
Geological something. What is it?
Yeah, it's something geological.
Geological.
Anyway, it was more than a hurricane or mudslides or anything like they usually call those things, because it's
Real.
changed the topography of
Yeah.
that area.
Yeah.
So dramatic that they named it something that's very
Environmental.
rare, huh?
It was like environmental
Yeah, something that it changed the topography there. So those roads, those main highways and things, they're not going to be in the same place as they were before. Like if you have a catastrophe usually and you have a road loss, you rebuild it right where it was. That's not possible there. It's changed everything there. So they have to change with it or else leave. So this is how the earth and our bodies can sometimes have to go to severe lengths to rebalance ourselves. Because Mother Nature is true to its name. And that's why, as you know, I kind of get perturbed sometimes when people say that somebody does something wrong and they say, oh, that's human nature. That's not human nature. Human nature is to get back in balance, to do the right thing. I didn't plan on talking about this, but Jesse. Jesse is my son.
Okay, that's good.
And he's been in prison for how long now? A while. And we were hoping for good news from the parole board. But it's not like the movies, where you go in front of the parole board and all this. I mean, some people do that, I guess, but it's not in his case. Anyway, we were all hoping for the best. Of course, everybody has to look at things different, from their own viewpoint. But anyway, we were hoping that he'd get out early next year. But they said that since he had, and all the stuff that he doesn't hurt other people. But anyway, he hurts himself. But so, because he's done the same thing over and over again, they declined his parole and going to make him serve his whole sentence. So, which isn't going to, so he's going to be out for long. He's going to be in there a long time. Anyway, why, heck, now I'm forgetting why I brought him up. I brought him up, because...
human nature.
Yeah, human nature, thank you. Because human nature, sometimes, if you take Jesse for an example, people that don't like him or something, or might know him and know his history, might say, well, that's human nature. He keeps doing that same thing over and over again. Well, it's not human nature. I mean, what you have to...
That's okay. He's a good kid that keeps getting out of balance.
Yeah.
He, and I'm not making excuses. If you knew what he went through, you could understand why he wants to hurt himself. It doesn't make sense. But he's trying to balance the hurt within him by hurting himself more. It doesn't make sense, like I said. But he's not the only one I've met like that. When I was deputy, there were people in there that would come back, you'd let them get out, and they'd be back. And I'd go up to them and I'd say, what the heck are you doing back here, You're not supposed to come back. And they did the same thing that they did to get them in there the first time. And so there are people that need people like you to show them an example, to invite them to church, to get them in here and let them know that they're not bad people. That no matter what they've done in the past, doesn't have to do with this moment, doesn't have to do with your future. You can change all of that in a split second. And you're putting yourself back in balance when you do that. And when you're back in balance, you can think clearer, you can see clearer, you can see opportunities instead of Instead, you can see a world of opportunities instead of a world of crap that's out there. You don't have to watch the news about and be saying that that's what all I see is bad out there. You can say, look, I've got some good somewhere. And if there's good out there, then maybe there's some good in me. And maybe I can continue on a different path that would give me results of good in my life. Which you can. But Mother Nature is going to do what it does. And human nature is going to do what it does. It's going to try to balance two. To the good, not to the bad. It's not human nature to do things bad for you. Because when we do things bad for ourselves or other people, what does it do? It hurts them and us, or whoever it hurts. But that isn't nature. This is what Fillmore said about king. Righteous, remember, it's not the same word, it's right thinking. King, right thinking. The executive faculty, that means your mind, in every man or woman whose life is guided, governed, and directed by Spirit. So you are a king or a queen when you listen to Spirit. And you know how many people have not even ever heard of anything like that? A lot more than have. A lot more than, even in our community, believe it or not. Even in our community. Count all those people, all the people that go to church. There's a lot more than that have not ever heard that there's a Spirit within inside of them. That they're a part of God. And that's just sad to me. And even if you get people in to listen to that, sometimes it doesn't soak in. Jesse, he knows he's good. I tell you what, he could be in unity ministry easy. But is he living it? He's not living what he's talking, he knows. And so, we continue to what? We continue to pray for people. We continue to think good thoughts about them. Know the truth about them, which is very key. Which is they are a child of God and they can have the kingdom of heaven right here and now. But it's ultimately whose choice is it? It's your choice. And you shouldn't be held back by, even if it's someone you love, you shouldn't be held back by them not making the right choices. Or not the right choices, but the choices best for them. Right? Okay, that's what Fillmore says. As a king and queen, we have a responsibility, that's what I just talked about, to guide and show those around us. And you know, I use the word responsibility because I think it is important for us. That is really a part of human nature too, if you think about it. You know, once we learn that the Spirit is inside of us, what are we going to do? Are we going to say, well, I'm glad I know that. I can go out and have anything I want in the world, and God really will grant me that, which is true. But why would you keep that a secret? Because God does love us just as much as he loves anybody else. God, and they'll be from the Bible here in a minute anyway. This is from Matthew, God's balance is when we, and this is the part of Matthew that you've heard before, but you've heard it said that you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. And that really is kind of like the more mortal part of still a lot of humanity, right? I mean, we still have that. I've seen people on a lot of different issues, and it really is stupid. You know, I can revert to this probably. Just think of the Hatfields and McCoys. You know, I think, if I remember right, that is a couple true families. But just think of them. And think of how they were raised. Of course, it started as an individual dispute. But then it grew into something else. And think of the kids, the offspring that happened. How they were raised. They were raised to hate the other one, right? And as long as they were raised to hate the other one, they probably did hate the other one. But what if they ever heard this what I'm talking about today, about nature's balance will happen, and we are a part of it, so there's this goodness inside of you that is in them too. It'd be a hard pill to swallow, but it's possible. But anyway, right now, that's what he was talking about. But I say to you, this is Jesus, I mean, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of your Father who is in heaven, for he makes his sun rise on the evil, which is not doing good, and on the good, and sends the rain on the just and on the unjust. And so when we think about that quote, we do understand, hopefully, that it is something that we need to do as far as share this idea, share this lifestyle with others. If it's nothing more than doing that. I was at the convenience store the other day, and this nice-looking lady, I don't know how old she was. She was probably in her late 20s. Anyway, she was getting this stuff, and she just, didn't have, her card didn't have enough money on it or something. And this guy, this older gentleman next to her, ended up saying, I got that, and paying for it. And she was just, flabbergasted. She was just really surprised and said, I'll look you up and all this stuff. And she was really, really appreciative of it. And so I was just sitting there, and it's just the three of us plus the clerk. And she looked back at me and said, God is working miracles all the time. And she said, yes, he is. And which, you can get on that later, he and she and all that stuff. But we're not worried about that right now. So anyway, but to understand that it is working all the time, and she wasn't one, you could tell that she wasn't one that necessarily is in debt or anything. She liked to keep, you just could see she was kind of a proper person. I don't need to point you out, Larry, but she's kind of like you, you're just really well-dressed and nice, and it was probably embarrassing for her not to have the money on the card. I don't know. But anyway, it doesn't make a difference. He stepped up to her, and it was funny because I was intentionally holding myself back because I was going to do that, but I just was watching. And it's kind of cool to do that sometimes. Just watch, see what's happening. But it was just a really cool event, and to know that other people still, it's our nature to help each other. It is our nature to help each other. So let's not forget that. But I do want to point out that this is the end of a Matthew chapter that is, the first of it is the Beatitudes. And I don't know about you, but I love the Beatitudes. And so you can see, and as in most Bible chapters, the chapter includes so much different stuff. I mean, I wouldn't think that this would come from the Beatitudes. But anyway, because it changes during the chapter. So naturally, God loves all of us. And the question is, can't we love one another? If we look at the news, look at the political stuff, look at all this stuff, you can say, from an outsider's viewpoint, who knows what you'd say. It'd be, I don't know. I'd like to have a fresh start maybe and look at what we put out there in the media and stuff and see what I would think. Would I think that everybody loves everybody here? I don't know. I don't know if I would. But we have the choice to do that. And that's why, again, coming to church, hearing the good news is an important part of all our lives. But I think we can love one another. I think we can. We start right here in church. And then we go and spread it in all our lives, no matter where we are.
Warren,
Yes.
I volunteer at the hospital, and I see people come in all day long, black and white couples, which I never thought I'd see when I moved down here. But I just see so much love, and it goes back and forth, and I really have a wonderful time doing that.
Yeah, that is great. Yeah, it's funny, and
But you're going in there with the attitude of love.
yeah, that's true too. You are going in with the attitude of love too, which is true. And our old well, it doesn't make a difference. I don't need to name names, but there's this person that I know that he gets real angry when the national news puts on this the blacks and whites hate each other. When he has a few interracial marriages in his family tree, and he says that isn't anything near the truth. So, it's your truth is your truth. Whether it's the truth or not may be a different question.
Well, it's even in the countries, Israel and Palestinians, there's a lot of, they get along, they don't like this, the Russians and, what's the country? Ukraine. There's a lot of them that do care about each other, but all
Oh,
we
yeah.
see is all these people that, you know, they make them go to war and.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so we have some work to do then, I guess, but that's okay. But we have to just live our life as an example, and I think that that's easy, really. But we have to do it from our own certain perspective. So if we do that, then we can love one another. Put balance in your life by putting God first. That's easy enough. God bless you.